Hey, yo guys, this is Jared, aka the SAINTofSINS on Xbox Live, and much to my chagrin, MLB 2K12 along with NBA 2K12 came in my mailbox a week earlier than I was expecting, so I can finally bring a little baseball gameplay footage. Something I have been dying to do for a while now because baseball season's coming up, and man oh man am I getting pumped up and ready to roll despite the fact that I am such a sad, pathetic Mets fan. Oh, Will Pons. Why must they insist on ruining my baseball seasons year in and year out, as well as my Christmases, by coming over and shoving a turkey leg up my ass and then asking me how much I love Jason Bay's contract? Why? And if my season wasn't looking bleak enough, my first opponent online ends up picking the Miami Marlins to rub some salt in my wound. No, not because their biggest acquisition during the offseason was Jose Reyes, who unfortunately wasn't even given a contract offer to stay aboard the Mets. No. It's because for the next 9 innings, I gotta look at those horrendous, ugly, filthy, disgusting Nathan Lane-inspired jerseys. It's enough to make a man want to cry. They're so ugly. So ugly. Okay, gotta pull myself together. Get into this commentary. It's rather than just concentrating on the traumas that this organization causes me year in and year out. Okay, alright, I'm better now. Now, onto this gameplay, shall we? You might be noticing something going on with the screen at the moment. There's a lot of lag with this game. The servers right now are in absolute shambles. I've never seen, nor have I ever played an MLB 2K game that has been this laggy before. And I'm going to attribute it to the fact that the game was just released this past week, and therefore these sort of issues will eventually be ironed out. If not, this is pretty much on par with every experience I've ever had on MLB The Show 10. Huzzah! Now, unlike most people out there, probably more sane than I didn't actually try the demo for this year's installment, because I like to think that I'm suffering from Stockholm Syndrome when it comes to this franchise, because every year I download the demo, and every year I convince myself that this may be the year that 2K finally decides they're going to up their game and actually bring me a baseball simulation experience for the season. And then I buy the game, and then I'm sorely disappointed. This must be how Tom Brady feels after taking on Eli Manning in the Super Bowl every time. So basically, this is going to be my first impressions of the game. And while every year it's easy for me to say that at least this one's better than last year's edition, what's a little more difficult for me to state is the fact that this actually felt more like a true simulation baseball game. But then again, I have said this about the demos before, so maybe drawing this conclusion after only one game, especially one online laggy game, is a little premature. But hey, sometimes we just want to believe in fairy tales and make believe. God damn it, I want my unicorn! And what better way to sour my experience than to pick the worst team in Major League Baseball right now than the Houston Astros as the team to actually dive headfirst into this new experience. Not like my luck would have been any different if I had decided to go with the Mets instead, because let's face it, they lost so many pieces this offseason that I don't even know if they're any better. Wait, reality just sank in. The Astros are way worse because they don't have any Major League ready players now. So you might be asking yourself, well, if they're so bad, why did you pick them for this online gameplay? Well, 2K does this amazing little thing where every year for the past 3 years now, they like to force players to pick the worst team in baseball for an online game for an achievement. And as I've already established in my last video, I'm a bit of an achievement whore. But unlike the last 2 seasons, this year you don't actually have to win the game with the team in order to get the achievement. And thank God for that, because it's impossible to win with the Astros. They have no bats, and their pitching is so dreadful that it might as well be non-existent. Hell, the Astros are so strapped for pitching, they might as well dig up Scott Schoenweiss's wife and put her on the mound. She might be an improvement. Okay, I know, I'm being over the top dramatic and completely unfair to the Astros, But I cannot, for the life of me, fathom how this franchise is still afloat. But I digress. I really don't want to keep going off on just this franchise, because I do have plans to talk about all 30 baseball teams in upcoming videos, as well as break down the upcoming season. So instead, let's just focus on the gameplay, shall we? I know, such a daunting task. A video game commentator commenting on the actual video game he's playing and presenting. What a novel idea! So I'm currently sitting on 4 strikeouts here with J.A. Happ, who I decided to go with over Wandy Rodriguez for the simple fact that I believe Happ is a better pitcher and has better upside. But don't tell that to the developers of this game, who decided that J.A. Happ is far, far inferior to Wandy Rodriguez in terms of their overall rating. Don't ask me. I'm just the guy playing the game. I didn't create this shit. So as you're about to see on your right hand side of the screen, 2K has decided that for the sake of presentation, they're going to bring up these interesting stats to kind of showcase how you've been pitching throughout the entire game. And as you just saw, I've been establishing a lot of the strike zone with my fastball. It's been my go-to pitch for pretty much the first pitch of every at-bat, for the most part at least. But unfortunately, what 2K isn't going to present is how my opponent is beating me in the hits column. And that's to say that he is destroying my changeup, which I thought I was getting down low enough to bounce in the dirt, but unfortunately, because of the new camera angle, I didn't realize that all my pitches were actually hovering in the strike zone. Well, that's not completely true. Due to J.A. Happ's control issues, I would miss the zone wide plenty of times when I wanted to pitch inside or just hit a corner. But thanks to my opponent's eagerness and lack of patience, I was able to get ahead of him in many counts. And here 2K's presentation demonstrates this fact. Look how often I was out of the zone, but yet my opponent would still chase the pitch. This is either due to his lack of patience or a batter's eye. Take your pick. But while my opponent was struggling to find the strike zone, I was struggling with many other things, namely the lag. If you recall back to the first inning, Hanley Ramirez was able to reach second base on a throwing error, thanks in large part to the fact that I had no idea how long I needed to hold onto the right analog stick in order to make my throw successful to first base, nor was I aware of how clunky Carlos Lee would handle at first base in order to retrieve the ball in order to try and get a throw into second base for a play. What was more frustrating than that was the fact that I couldn't get the timing down on my swing in order to take advantage of the fact that my opponent's pitches hovered squarely around the center of the plate. Thankfully though, I was able to avoid many strikeouts because I was able to make contact and put the ball in play. Unfortunately, it would mostly just be ground balls up the middle. It would be at this point of the game in which he would take off the shackles I had placed on him with my strikeouts and open up the hits by doubling what I had on the scoreboard. So even if I was able to take away that unearned run in the first inning, I'd still be down a big hole because I'm unable to string together multiple hits. Case in point, here I am with 2 outs with Chris Snyder at the plate, and I rip one just over the shortstop's head. Unfortunately, now I have the pitcher coming up, and I do not want to go to the bench just yet because the only worthwhile bat on the bench is the lefty Jack Cust. Strategically speaking, he's the only one that has an advantage over the right-hander Josh Johnson on the mound right now, in that he's the only lefty on the bench. But considering he's the only power bat riding Brad Mills' lap, I need him later on in case the game is tied and I need to break it open. So I gamble with Happ at the plate in hopes that I'll be able to keep this inning alive. Worst case scenario, I start off the next inning with my leadoff man, Jordan Schaefer. And wouldn't you know it, my indecision didn't pay off at all. Shock and awe. A pitcher not coming through in a clutch situation with the bat? Tickled me surprised. And to add further surprise, I was completely unaware that Matt Downs had any power because I didn't think that 10 home runs in one season would warrant a 70+ power rating. Again, tickle me surprised. Now unfortunately, this would be the end of J.A. Happ's day because everything completely broke down, from his control to the lag to the fielding. Here I had issues trying to control Jordan Schaefer to get to the marker, and unfortunately the lag took me in a different direction. I had no idea what I was doing anymore. And here you can see, clear as day, I can't keep the ball in play. For whatever reason, I couldn't cancel out of Carlos Lee's attempted throw to first base, and this led to an entire mess where everything felt slow. Thankfully the game wouldn't get this laggy again later on. but unfortunately it would put me deeper into a hole that I was already having issues trying to climb out of. Ultimately, what doomed me was my decision to preload my throws, as well as my inability to understand which player I was actually being in control of during my fielding. So in hindsight, it probably wasn't my brightest idea to go jumping into an online game from my first experience, because this is so extremely different from what I remember 2K10 and 2K11 to have played as. But that's what excites me about this game, the fact that it doesn't play like those two. It actually feels more like a simulation baseball game, something I have been wanting for on the Xbox 360 for many years. But, like I said earlier, this opinion is based entirely on just one game played, and this could actually just be the honeymoon period. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this is the real deal. Just this once. So with half out, I turned the ball over to Lucas Harrell. Unfortunately for me, his control was no better, and I would get hammered for several more hits and runs. Worse yet, my opponent would not let up. He was aggressive on the base paths the entire time, even tagging up on flyouts. He was absolutely menacing. He just wouldn't let up. He was not content with a 7-run lead. Case in point, he sends Logan Morrison on that deep fly ball to left field. Thankfully, I was able to minimize most of the damage, but Harrell kept falling into trouble, so I eventually called on Brandon Lyon to finish out the inning. But he too would be a victim of my poor defense, as Jimmy Paredes would fail to capture this infield fly. But thankfully, due to my opponent's over-aggressiveness, I was able to still collect the out. But right now, the writing is clearly on the wall, and it reads as such: Jared is completely fucked, as he is down 7 runs in the 8th inning. Surely most of you have already drawn to the conclusion that, yep, I lost yet another game online. What else is new? But like I said before, I'm not willing to go down without putting up much of a fight, and right here, you're going to see some fight still in me, goddammit. So with Chris Snyder leading off the inning with a single up the middle, I finally decide I have to pull the trigger here. I have to utilize the only bat I have any faith in on the bench, in Jack Cust. Unfortunately, it's a lefty versus lefty matchup, which should favor my opponent, because Jack Cust is a lifetime .228 batting average against lefties, and of his 105 career home runs, 19 are collected off of left-handed pitchers. So the matchup here is Michael Dunn versus Jack Cust. Michael Dunn is pretty much a lights-out pitcher against left-handed bats, surrendering only a 196 batting average against left-handed batters. They're also only slugging 287 off of him. So I have completely stacked the deck against myself and have undermined my own decision here to bring in Jack Cust. But stats don't dictate how a game breaks down. That's why you gotta play every pitch. Hit deep to right field. Stretch! Stretch! You can put it on the board! Yes! Celebrations aside, the remainder of that 8th inning would just not go my way, as I would go quietly into the remainder of the night. Heading into the bottom of the 9th with 2 outs and Chris Snyder up at plate. He had come through for me twice before, but unfortunately would just weakly ground out to Jose Reyes for the fielder's choice to end the game. And just like that, we could put this one in the books. My first game on MLB 2K12 goes down in horrific fashion with an 8-3 loss at home. My only highlights in this game would be the 11 strikeouts I collected, as well as the 2-run shot by Jack Cust. Emilio Bonifacio will walk away with the player of the game, coming a home run shy of the cycle. Despite how effective my opponent's pitching was, he would only collect that 1 strikeout off of Jordan Schaefer in the 1st inning. And with that, this video is coming to an end. I'm just going to leave you with some highlights. Take care. See you later, guys.
Quite like this. Pretty good offensive attack.
Well, when you're on the road, to have this kind of offense, it takes the hometown crowd out of the game and really helps your chances.
This is Gary Thorne with John Kruk and Steve Phillips. Hope you had a great time, as good as we did. Then you're all set. See you next time.